Welcome, my friends. Silouan here. Great to have you again today. I don't know if I've done this on one of these recent podcasts yet. I'm just going to tell a couple stories, great stories that I just learned about. I want to say experience, but I wasn't there for them. But it felt like it, the way they were told. Hopefully this will motivate you. If you're going through tough times, to keep going. If you think there's no good in the world, there's no miracles, maybe you might just believe a little bit in them after you hear these. So the first one, they both happened in the same place. I was in Illinois, I was teaching a class. I had police officers and dispatchers from around Illinois in there. And, do a lot of sharing. We're there for like 3 days. What I try to do is involve everybody, get them to kind of tell their story, where they've been, where they're going, why they're interested. In this particular class, it was a peer support class, why you're interested in helping people that have been through trauma. And this one officer had an incredible story. So in about a few year period, this is what happened to him. A good friend of his was killed in another city, basically right after they had spoken on the phone. And it was just a horrible, tragic death of a police officer, and it was his friend. And then less than a year later, his father, who at the time was young, early 50s, died, gets a call from his mom, dad's not breathing, he goes home, there's his dad on the floor, dead. At the same time all this is going on, he and his wife, they'd been married for over 10 years, tried to have children, they couldn't have children. And so they had tried all sorts of various avenues, whether it was fostering kids or whatever, it hadn't worked, and they got with this service that was an adoption service. And everything was going good. They spent a lot of money, and then an adoption fell through. And when it did, he kind of got mad. He kind of blew up at the adoption agency, and they put him on like this blacklist and basically said, you'll never be able to adopt a kid. And so here he is dealing with, all the pain and trauma still of his friend being killed and his dad dying. And now, they can't, they're never going to have children. And at the same time, this is overlapping COVID and the aftermath of COVID, which has just made being in law enforcement incredibly hard. And he finds himself in a moment with a gun. I'm going to kill myself. And out of the blue, he gets a text message, like almost as he was going to do it, that he hadn't expected. And it was almost prophetic. It was somebody checking in on him. I'm worried about you. How are you doing? This person had no reason to do it. It kind of knocked him to his senses, and he didn't kill himself. And then that kind of allowed him some perspective. And then him and his wife had some conversations, and they basically came to peace with the idea, maybe we're just not meant to have kids. Maybe we're just going to be married, and maybe we're going to be the aunt and uncle that everybody loves, that gets the best presents at Christmas and buys candy and gets the parents mad at us. And he said, we had peace with that. And it helped me find peace with, my father passing away and my friend being killed. And then within a week or two, after coming to that peace, he gets this call that he hadn't expected, had no idea of. And it's from his mother telling him that he's got like a second cousin that he didn't know about who lives in Washington State. And this like cousin's daughter had just had a premature baby who in the womb tested positive for drugs, or I guess not in the womb, but the mom tested positive for drugs while she was pregnant. And so it began this process of having to find parents, and they call them up and say, would you adopt this child? And they go, well, of course we would. So they fly out to Washington. I think 10 days or so after the baby was born, they got there. The baby had tested positive. That's where I was a little off. The baby had tested positive for cocaine and a couple other drugs. They bring it home, and he shares a picture of their child like a year later, healthy as can be, no effects from the drugs. They've got their child. Just an amazing story. Just a reminder, one, don't give up. Also a reminder, you don't necessarily need a miracle. They came to peace with, maybe we're not going to have kids. We're going to help other kids. Usually when something's happened in life that you can't reverse, you can't go back. You can't have a do-over. Usually your only way forward is, well, maybe though I can help other people. And they did that. And then they had the little miracle, a relative they didn't know about, a baby. And again, talk about just an amazing story. Think of that child's future if they didn't find someone like them loving to adopt. What happens to, a premature in NICU on drugs child born to a drug mom. What usually happens to them? It's not good. But that kid got an awesome mom and dad, and now it all came together. So I heard that, I'm like, what a great class. This is awesome. And then, just when I thought I couldn't hear anything better, I heard this one. So then we're in a group and we're talking about bad days, and there's this other officer in the class, and before he was a police officer, he had been a firefighter, and before he was a firefighter, he was a security guard. And he was a security guard, like an apartment complex, and he was young, and he was looking to get on as a first responder somewhere, which happens a lot, where places aren't hiring. I'll apply to the fire departments. I'll apply to the police departments. And he was like working security, and, they got a call, and they went to this apartment, and this is a crazy story that I kept waiting for the bad ending. And they get to this apartment, and it was a kind of, overweight 16-year-old girl who did not know she was pregnant. And she sits down to go to the bathroom, and she's having kind of a tough, and out comes a 23-week-old baby in the toilet. And whoever's there with her, they cut the umbilical cord, tie it up, and leave the baby in the toilet. And so he gets there, and here is his 23-week-old baby in the toilet. And he looks at it, and he's like, it looks dead. Like the baby looks like it's dead. And I grab it, and he goes, it's still warm. So I'm thinking, well, maybe it's just been dead for a little bit. And then a little breath comes out of the baby's mouth. So then he gets two fingers, and think, 23-week-old baby. Like at the baby in one hand. So he's got this baby in one hand. He's like doing this with his fingers. And then him and someone else, they go get in a car because it's just quicker to get it to the hospital. So they got this little baby, 23 weeks old, born in a toilet. Okay, doing that. And they get to the hospital, and they grab the baby, and they take it. And he said, even then, but he's kind of done this with his career, he doesn't always like following up because he kind of doesn't want to know, did the baby survive? Did the baby die? If it survived, awesome. But if it died, I don't know if I want that in my head. So he never finds out what happens to this 23-week-old baby born in the toilet until 5 years later. And he's at work at a fire department, and it's before he's a police officer. And a woman comes by with her daughter and asks for his name because she had heard he worked there. And he comes out, and he sees the woman and her 5-year-old daughter, the 23-week-old baby that he got out of a toilet and saved with his two fingers. And the girl is healthy and happy. And as he put it, she was the same age as one of my kids and bigger. Obviously, being born in a toilet at 23 weeks didn't stunt her growth. And they just came by to say thanks and to tell him how great both of them were doing. And, he's telling this, obviously, it was hard for him. He's borderline in tears as he tells it because, on the one hand, it's got a happy ending. On the other hand, he lived with the trauma of coming to an apartment with a 23-week-old in a toilet. I can't even imagine. But just what an amazing, miraculous story. And you know what, friends? I'm sharing this with you. I get an honor. I get a blessing to travel all over and meet men and women who serve, whether it's men and women who are first responders, men and women in the military. And it's really easy to look around our world and see all the bad and all the things to be upset about and all the things to be stressed about. And I'm here to tell you there are miracles and there are wonders and there are great stories and there are selfless people trying to do the right thing every day all around us. It's all around us. And I just wish more people would take the time to do what I do and just talk. Go up to that police officer you see and start talking to them. They're a human being. Go up to that firefighter, go up to that veteran, go to that nurse, go to that doctor, go to that person who works in a halfway house. Go to that person who volunteers in a jail. Go up to them, talk to them, listen to them, hear their stories. You'll find miracles too. You'll find a million reasons to put a smile on your face and go, there's good in the world. There's love in the world. They're awesome people in this world. They're people who have survived the worst. Now there's the bad, but you can't let that eat away at you. You got to wrestle with it. Just like we talked about in my series on the book of Job. There's evil, there's bad, there's unexplainable things, but man, there's a lot of good, a lot of good. 2 children born premature, probably in in a normal circumstance, nothing but a life of hardship ahead of them. And whether it was the miracle of a couple who were desperate for a child and didn't even know they existed half a country away, or it's a young man looking for his path, looking for his future, and he ends up in an apartment with a baby and a toilet. And at the end of it are human beings caring for each other, loving each other, doing the right thing. So search for that in your own life. Search to be good in your own life. Go out of your way to help someone that maybe nobody else is helping, that no one else is paying attention to, that no one else is considering. Go visit somebody in a prison. Go visit somebody in a halfway house struggling to get off drugs. Give some money to that single mom struggling just to raise her kids. Do the right thing and work. You'll feel good about it. And those people that you're trying to help, you will be surprised at the amazing stories they may have for you that will boost you up, give you a reason to keep moving forward. When you thought you were the one that was going to be helping them, they may be the one to motivate you. So do something good today, my friends. Go for a walk, enjoy the day, be kind to somebody. I'm Silouan. Peace.